Due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis and in accordance with Governor Sununu's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-4, the Zoning Board of Adjustment is authorized to meet electronically. The City of Concord will be using the Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which is authorized pursuant to Governor Sununu's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-4. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the Zoom platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting by following this link: US02, that's 02 web.zoom.us/J/6109193118, or dialing the following number and entering the following ID number at the prompt: 929-1929-205-6099. That's 1-929-205-6099. And the webinar ID is 610-919-318. That's 610-919-318. Please enter your full name when logging in so attendance and minutes can be properly recorded. Note that telephone participation will be enabled at the end of each public hearing. All participants, please keep your phones and computers on mute unless speaking. Members of the public can also email questions to other public testimony to code@concordnh, all one word, .gov. And staff will read the testimony or question into the record during the meeting. Any member of the public can also call the Code or Zoning Administrator office during the meeting at 603-856-3913 if they are unable to access the meeting and if assistance with connecting is needed. Materials can be requested from the Zoning Administration Division via email or by calling and leaving a message at 603-225-8580 or online at www.concord.nh.gov/280/zoning-board-of-adjustment. We will follow our usual procedure this evening, which is to say we will hear the cases in the order in which they appear on the agenda. We will ask the appellants to speak first and offer whatever testimony that they would like us to hear. We do ask that they confine themselves, if at all possible, to a 10-minute interval. Following that, we will solicit testimony from those who are in favor of the appeal. And following that, we will solicit testimony from anyone who is in opposition to the appeal. Following all of that, we will check in with code enforcement to see if there's any further information from that office pertaining to the case. And in the end, if there has been any testimony offered which appears to merit factual clarification, the appellant will have the opportunity to offer that clarification, not new arguments, prior to our closing the public testimony portion of the hearing. Under most circumstances, the board will act on each case before moving on to the next. I would call the first case, which is 01-21, Granite State Baptist Church of Concord for Manchester Sand and Gravel Incorporated. Applicant wishes to merge the subject properties with an existing church property at 236 Sheep Davis Road and requests a variance to Article 2824J, Principle of Principal Uses, Table of Principal Uses. The permit to permit the combined lots to be used for churches, synagogues, and places of religious worship, which is Principal Use B7, along with associated accessory uses where such uses are not permitted for properties known as 238 Sheep Davis Road, 240 Sheep Davis Road, and the vacant island to the east of 240 Sheep Davis Road, known as Lot 622/Z11// for properties with portions located in the IN Industrial District and the RO residential open space district. There's a note here in the agenda that a variance was granted under case 18-2015 to establish the use, and variance was granted under 31-2018 to expand the use. That is the use of the Granite State Baptist Church.
At 236 Sheep Davis Road. Yeah.
At 236 Sheep Davis Road. Thank you, Craig. Pastor Chamberlain, are you here on behalf of the church?
Yes, sir.
You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but it?
Yes, sir.
What would you like us to know?
So you can see where the variances were put in place when we originally purchased the property back, and I believe that case was in July of 2015 when the zoning board heard the original case to be able to change the use or allow the use of our church inside this industrial zone. That worked out well, improved the property. Church began expanding, and so we came back in 2018 and actually added an addition out the front of the church to be able to add handicapped accessibility and the accessibility to the upstairs, the second floor of our current building. We're thankful that even through the past year with the pandemic, the ministry and the growth of Granite State Baptist Church still continues in the right direction. And so we have been looking at the property at 238 and 240 Sheep Davis Road, which is the old Outdoor World landscape and supply place that is owned by Manchester Sand and Gravel. And so I know that there have been several that have been interested in that piece of property due to the fact that it is zoned industrial, and then it does drop off to the river. And then back in 2010, this side of the road was put into the aquifer protection zone because of the river, the Salcook River that is down below there. And so with the growth of the church, the outreach of our ministry into the community, the limited availability of several that have looked at the property in order to try to purchase it, did create a hardship because of the aquifer protection zone. So anything with any fluids, diesels, oils, anything along those lines, chemicals, was not allowed to be able to move into that piece of property. So we have kept in touch. I know it's been on the market for at least a few years. It has been empty and not being used for at least the past 4 years. I know since we have occupied 236 Sheep Davis Road. And so we are looking to purchase these 3 lots that are north of us right now. Our goal would be to merge this all into one piece of property, one lot. In the future, we would be looking to expand and build a new place of worship, which would be close to our current existing building. And then we would look to expand on that northwest corner, which would be up towards the gas station up in that area, with some outreach ministry that we are currently doing here in the community, whether it be storage for clothing ministry, food pantry to be able to help with the community. We have a big prison outreach for material distribution and everything for New Hampshire and also this region up here. And so we would like to be able to expand onto that property, be able to expand our outreach. But then one of the key points to be able to get started is you can see on our property right now, we have no green space as far as even for conducting our yearly daily vacation Bible schools, to be able to have any of the children outside. Everything's either a retention area or our pavement and parking for our existing building. And so we would, as you're looking at this map, up there in the middle of the lot beside the modular that's there, those concrete storage areas, first thing we'd like to do is take that whole area and just be able to go in there and seed that down and be able to use that as green space for church activities and outreach for our community. And so we are looking to expand the ministry of the church to be able to impact our community more than what we are right now. So it would include a new place of worship. It would include eventually some outreach buildings to be able to store materials and everything that we are using to hand out to the community, and continue to be able to add on from there. And so that's, in a general sense, in a nutshell, what we are looking to do next door.
I need to apologize. I need to interrupt for one chore I neglected to do, which is to poll the board members who are present and ask them if there is anyone in the room with them. So by way of introduction to the board members, I will do so. First, starting with Mr. Monahan. You're muted, Jim.
Thank you, Chris. Jim Monahan, and I am alone in my home office.
Mr. Wallner, also muted.
Nick Wallner, and I am alone in my office.
Mr. Winters.
Andrew Winters, I'm alone in my basement.
And Ms. Spector Morgan.
Laura Spector Morgan, and other than my furry little friend over here, I am alone in my home office.
I'm not sure your furry friend can testify, but we're delighted to have him or her with us.
I figured you saw her, so I'd introduce her.
I'm Chris Carley, and I'm in my own office by myself. Thank you for your patience, Pastor Chamberlain. Are there any questions for Pastor Chamberlain? I'm not seeing or hearing any. Very good. I guess we'll move on to whether or not there is anyone who would like to be heard in favor of this appeal. Is there anyone who would like to be heard in opposition to it? Any comments from code enforcement?
I just emailed you a letter from an abutter that should be read into the record.
Did you send it to all of us?
Yes, I did.
I received a copy and I read it. It was it came actually just 10 minutes ago.
Yes.
This is right in the text of the email, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Greg, I've had problems receiving emails from you guys. Can you check, see who you send it to? Because I don't have it, nor did I get the first appeal for us to attend the zoning board meeting that was sent out by Rose.
Okay, I'll have to look at that.
Yeah. I don't have it in front of me, so.
I will read it into the record. Our concerns about lots 238 and 240 Sheep Davis Road, what their intentions are for the lower two lots. I've spent the last 30 years keeping people out of that area. People trying to dump brush, couches, trash, etc. People trying to camp down there. Our main concern is using our driveway to allow the public access to that area. It would be a matter of time when there would be drinking and drug use in that area. People come in and out all hours. It would make an unsafe area for my grandchildren and pets. Also puts our property at risk for theft and vandalism. If this is up for a vote, my wife and I are totally against it. Other alternative could be putting in a foot trail from top lot to second lot that would prevent cars from accessing the lot by using our driveway. This would help by keeping the ones that don't belong out. This is the Hardys that submitted this letter, and they are at 220 Pembroke Road in Concord.
Greg, I just got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So would I be able to answer that if you're asking?
Yes. Do we have? I gather we have no other public testimony. So yes, Pastor Chamberlain, what would you like us to know about that?
We know that there are several things that we would have to look at before we were able to use that lower piece of property. We also know that that lower area along the river is in the floodplain. And so it is going to be limited on what is that able to be used for, and then also what it's used for, but also be able to build. Our intentions right now, we wouldn't be looking to do anything with it over the next year or two, probably. What we would like to do is, for the purpose of our reaching into the community and then also our region up here in New Hampshire, if we were able to, and I understand jumping through all the hoops, would love to have and develop that area down there, for example, to use as a day camp, or for the church to be able to gather down there, even putting up an open air tabernacle down along the river, that if we were able to go down and be able to use the area for baptisms, to be able to have a picnic area, put in a ball field for usage down there. And so we would be looking at using that property in the future along those lines. So I completely understand the concern about using that right of way. It is a right of way that does come through there to be able to give access to the property. And so it would not be something that would be completely open to the public just to be able to go back and forth. And so it would be under controlled use of the church. And to answer about just putting a walking path in there, that would, as far as give many limitations, as far as because of the steepness going down around the side, for any accessibility for anyone that would be hindered in trying to get down there, as far as using a wheelchair or walker, crutches, anything. So it would not be just open public use. It would be for private use of the church. And so we're even open to even having a gate down there at the end of the property so that people just aren't driving back and forth. You can see the right of way as Craig is showing it right there. There is that right of way that is deeded to be able to come in. And so as we came in there, we're not against putting a gate there to be able to do that. Just to give current status an update, before the snow, we actually did go walk the entire bottom side there, and there is no current signs whatsoever. There is no homeless camps. There is no party remnants or anything that has been found down there walking all along the river, walking in the fields. There is no evidence of that taking place right now, because that was a concern we had as far as, okay, as a church, are we going to have to go down there and look to move some homeless out from along the river? And so there's no evidence of that. So that would be the use that we would be looking at for that lower property.
Are there questions from the board?
Have you, Pastor, or anyone at your church had any discussions with the Hardys to maybe address any of their concerns?
No, we tried to see them one day when we went in and walked, that we wanted to get a layout of it. And I didn't know they had sent in a letter. So this is the first we've heard of that. And so when we were coming out, I saw him outside, but by the time we got back over there, he had gone back into his house. And so I was not able to. That is one of our steps that's already been mentioned, of personally going ahead and trying to alleviate that. Let them know that it's not going to be just public use, and open that up for anybody and everybody just to be going in there.
Thank you.
And he does plow his snow from that driveway. He does plow that at the opening, so it's very limited to be able to get a car in there even right now. So, and we would help with that. We don't want it just open, because we want to protect the property that we believe is used for the Lord's work.
Thank you.
So we'll be the best neighbors we can.
Any other questions?
Craig also mentioned to me about bringing up, I had put in a letter also about the current office modular building that is over there on the existing property now, to be able to be using that modular as long as it is structurally sound, that we would actually be able to start using that modular once things thawed out and we were able to get in there, but to be able to start using that for church outreach and office right now too. But we know nothing's grandfathered in there, but if it is structurally sound, it does have water and sewer hooked up to it.
Okay, that letter is in the application record.
Okay.
Thank you. With that, I'll declare the public testimony portion of the hearing closed and open the case for discussion, starting with Mr. Monahan. What are your thoughts, Jim? You're muted.
I think I sat on the case a couple years ago where we made a decision to grant the approval to use for the church to use this property for this use, and so it seems consistent with me to grant the variance tonight because it's consistent with what we had done previously. With regard to the abutters concerns, I think the pastor addressed them pretty well, and I think the risk of misuse of that lower property is probably lessened when it's under control of the church as opposed to its current condition.
Mr. Wallner.
Yes, I too sat on that case, and I agree with what Jim said. And also part of the hardship revolves around that there's limited use for that property because of the aquifer issue. So I'm inclined to support the request.
Mr. Winters.
Yeah, I was reviewing the minutes of the two prior variances. The original variance we granted primarily because of the unique nature of the aquifer district being an overlay in the industrial district, kind of made it a hardship. And if I recall at that time, the pastor was candid that the church was hoping to grow and they might need more variances. So, and I also agree with what Mr. Monahan said, that if anything, the church taking over those lots would hopefully minimize some of the concerns the Hardys have about improper behavior there, that, you know, if there's church activity, that might be more of a disincentive to people misusing the property. So I agree with what both Nick and Jim said.
Ms. Spector-Morgan.
I did not sit on the original variance, but I agree with everything that's been said. The church is already there. It seems to make sense for it to be able to expand onto abutting properties, especially where the use of those properties is limited by the zoning. Probably can't use a lot of industrial uses in an aquifer protection zone. So I would be in favor of granting the variance.
I am also in favor of granting the variance for the reasons that my colleagues have offered. I think the lots do have peculiar characteristics, not only because of the aquifer overlay, but because of the topography and the previous uses of them that make them more suitable for the way the church would like to use them than for many other uses, which is one reason why they haven't been reused. With that, I will solicit a motion. Is anyone interested in making a motion to grant the variance or to not grant the variance?
I move that we grant the requested variance.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
You have to
I have to poll you. I'm sorry. Mr. Monahan.
Yes.
Mr. Wallner.
Aye.
Mr. Winters.
Aye.
Ms. Spector-Morgan.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion carries. The variance is granted. And that moves us on to our second case this evening, which is case 0421, Concord Hospital, Inc. and Capital Region Healthcare Corporation. The applicant wishes to subdivide and create a new lot for the newly constructed Concord Hospital Memorial Building and adjacent parking lot as a separate lot, approximately 2.85 acres, subdivided from the existing Concord Hospital campus lot, approximately 55.8 acres, and requests the following. A variance to Article 2841H table of dimensional regulations to provide zero frontage where 150 feet is required, and variances to Article 28.4.1H, table of dimensional regulations to provide no front, rear, or side yard setbacks where a 30-foot front, 30-foot rear, and 20-foot, 5-foot, side setbacks are required, all for a 2.85 acre plus or minus proposed lot to be subdivided if relief is granted from the existing 250 Pleasant Street parent lot located in an IS institutional district. Before I move on, Craig, could you explain why we have the two cases and how they relate to each other and how we ought to manage this? Or not?
Yes, I can.
There you are.
Okay. Well, yeah, the situation here is because they are proposing to create a new property line, or four at a minimum. They are going to be creating new nonconformities on both sides of that property line. So we need the application for the building that's going to be sitting on the proposed new lot, because the applications are specific to the property, and thus we have a second application for the parent lot. So those should cover the variances that will need to be granted or being requested on both sides of the property line.
Is there a procedural reason that you know of why we wouldn't take these cases and deal with them both at the same time?
Not at all.
All right.
The only thing I would just make sure is, especially during your discussions, though, as much as possible, try to identify the parent lot versus the proposed lot. And at the time of the vote, we'll have to, clearly make sure we vote separately on all of them too. So.
Very good. I'd like to poll the board members and find out if they also agree that we should consider the two cases more or less simultaneously. Mr. Wallner?
Yes.
Mr. Winters?
Yes.
Ms. Spector-Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Monahan?
Yes, and Chris, I'm wondering, is it the same witness for both cases?
I believe it would be. Is it Mr. Sloan who's testifying?
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Sloan, are you testifying on both?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Great.
Yes. The answer is yes. In that case, I'll read out from the agenda the second case as well. This is case 0621, Capital Region Healthcare Corporation. Applicant wishes to subdivide and create a new lot for the newly constructed Concord Hospital Memorial Building and adjacent parking lot as a separate lot, approximately 2.85 acres, subdivided from the existing Concord Hospital campus lot, approximately 55.8 acres, and requests the following. A variance to Article 28.4.1H, Table of Dimensional Regulations, to provide no front, rear, or side setbacks where 30-foot front, rear, and side setbacks are required. Parking area, Article 28.7.7G, parking area setbacks and restrictions to allow no off-street parking setback where 5 feet are required, and a variance to 28.7.10A, parking lot perimeter landscaping required. No perimeter landscaping is provided where not less than 5 feet in width along the perimeter is required. All as shown on the accompanying plans for the remaining 55.8 acre plus or minus parent hospital campus lot, from which 2.85 acres plus or minus is to be subdivided, case 4021. If release is granted from the existing 250 Pleasant Street campus lot located in an IS institutional district. So if I have this straight, Craig, the latter case pertains to the large parcel that would be left behind, and the former case pertains to the new small parcel that would be created. Did I get that backwards?
Right. No, the first one is for the new lot. That's the case 04-221 is the 2.5 acre parcel. So
Okay.
That's going to be the one they're creating. And yes, the second one then is for the larger.
It's for what's left over.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Mr. Sloan, you swear to tell the truth and nothing but?
Yes, I do.
Would you identify yourself for the record and let us know what you would like us to hear.
Yes, sir. My name is Scott Sloan. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Concord Hospital. And thank you for your time tonight to hear our request. I'm going to have Bill Tucker talk about the legal terminology in terms of what it is and why we're trying to do this, but I wanted to give the board a little bit of background to what really brought us here tonight. So again, thank you for your time. We began planning for the construction of this new medical office building in 2016, early 2017, to address growing space constraints of many of our specialty practices in and around Concord. And as part of the building, though, because there's not a lot of room left for building on campus, we constructed it such that we could put a surgical suite in the lowest floor of the building, and that really related to ceiling heights, so the other floors could line up with the existing buildings on the third and fourth floor of this building, which are the first and second floor of the existing buildings because of the slope of the land. And at the time we were building this, Concord Orthopedics was actually considering building a 20,000 plus or minus square foot building on their existing lot, which is right across the street at Langley Parkway. That was their consideration. But shortly after they started doing a site analysis, they realized they weren't going to be able to do that on their site. And they began looking for other sites near the hospital that could house, give or take, 20,000 square foot surgery center. And what that led them to is they purchased a home on Pleasant Street, 297 Pleasant Street, and then subsequently looked to rezone that. It was in a residential zone. And I'm sure many of you probably heard about that. There was quite an outcry, not only from neighbors and abutters, but the entire city sort of rallied against rezoning that area of Pleasant Street. And so while that was going on, actually some city officials had reached out to the hospital and asked why we couldn't find them a spot on campus to locate this site. And the reality is, for us, we have a large campus, but most of it is in conservation or wetland. So our building space is very limited on campus. But what we did is, as this situation was unfolding, is we reached out to Concord Orthopedics and really talked to them about moving that orthopedic surgery center into the lower level of our building. That was not the initial intent. We were thinking of potentially needing an expanded surgical space, but we really felt this was a way to solve a problem for many folks. Concord Orthopedic, to find a site close to the hospital and to really get away from trying to rezone part of Pleasant Street. And we reached agreement with Concord Orthopedics to essentially sell them a condo in this building, which really is what led us here tonight, because now some things need to occur in order for us to do that. And so I'd really like to turn it over to Bill Tucker so he can explain the legal aspect of what we're requesting. Bill?
Let me unmute. Thank you. My name is Bill Tucker. I'm attorney for Concord Hospital on some real estate matters, including trying to create this condominium to satisfy the commitment we made to sell a condominium unit to Concord Orthopedics.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
may I swear you in?
Pardon me?
May I swear you in?
Of course.
Will you swear to tell the truth and nothing but?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. And in order to create the condominium, we have to create this lot, and our next stop would be the Concord Planning Board to get subdivision approval, for which we need these variances. What I had intended to do, and I can, unless you are comfortable with the written application and reasoning, I'm prepared to go through the 5 criteria and read them. The reasoning for both of these variances is very similar. But if you'd like me to read into the record our reasoning, I can, or if you're satisfied with the rationale set forth in the application, we can just proceed to answering any questions.
Why don't you give us a brief précis of your views on the 5 criteria?
Okay, sure. So the special conditions of what this distinguishes from other properties in the area is the property and the lot to be created will be an integral part of a medical and hospital complex. And this distinguishes it clearly from any other properties in the area. The plan for this building and the planning board approval for it was done before we planned to carve this lot out. And it took into consideration the necessary landscape requirements. The planning board was obviously content with the overall integration of this building into the campus. And obviously it was not designed with setbacks. And in fact, it is designed and it connects to and has a common entrance with the memorial building that's been there for plenty of years, which is part of one of the special circumstances that make this different, because we want this to be integrated into the entire medical complex. With respect to the general purposes of the zoning ordinance, the zoning ordinance, I think, never contemplated a facility such as this and a particular hospital campus that had multiple buildings, many of which are interconnected. We certainly don't think this will be contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance, because this lot is being created for condominium purposes only, and the building will be a condominium. What you see there today is exactly what you'll see after this variance is granted. There is nothing different on the site than what was approved by the planning board when they gave site plan approval to the project. And we believe this will be in the public interest because it will continue to allow a full range of medical services to be provided in a single location, with the relocation of Concord Orthopedics to the site. And as Scott Sloan mentioned, this was at the urging of numerous parties in the city, including city officials that wanted to see COPA locate on this property. We think this will do substantial justice because, again, it will allow continuation of medical services in this one campus, which certainly benefits the public. And we don't believe this will diminish any property values because all of the surrounding property is owned in common by the hospital, the 58 acres. And what we will be doing will be the legal creation of a condominium. Nothing will physically change on the ground.
Are there questions from the board? Ms. Spector-Morgan.
Attorney Tucker, you mentioned that the building's going to be condominiumed as well. Can you just explain that a little bit?
Yes. The reason for creating this lot is so that there can be a separate lot that will be the basis of the condominium. So the 2+ acre, 2.85 acre lot, that will still be owned by the Capital Regional Healthcare Corporation, which owns the entire campus and leases it to the hospital. The hospital owns all the buildings, but there will be a separate sublease for this parcel to the condominium association. It needs to be that way under the condominium statute.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Any other questions?
So,
Yes, Mr. Winters.
so if I have it straight, so you're not erecting a new building. You're just you're creating space in the memorial building, and that is currently unfinished for them to put in their surgical center.
Correct. It's not a new building. It's space in the recently completed building that we opened last summer in July.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Very good. I'll now open the floor to anyone who wishes to be heard in favor of this appeal. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard in opposition? Are there any comments from code enforcement?
Nope, no comments on this one.
Very good. And in that case, I will declare the public testimony portion of the hearing closed and invite my colleagues on the board to share their views on these requests, starting with Ms. Spector-Morgan.
So, as I understand the law, if a project would be permitted, but for a condominium, and the only reason relief is needed is because you want to make it a condominium, there's really no basis to deny it. So since this is an existing building, since nothing's going to change, and since the sole purpose is to create that condominium, I don't have any objection to any of the variances.
Mr. Winters.
Yeah, it's hard to pose an objection. I find it a little absurd that this is, it's certainly not the fault of anyone here, but a little absurd that this is put on as a zoning issue per se, because the Concord Hospital campus is obviously completely unique, has needs completely different than any other lot in the city.
Well, can I just jump in? Because
Yeah,
it's important to clarify here that Langley Parkway is not a publicly owned street. It's a private street at this point in time. They built that building there. They could condominiumize that building without having to come to the ZBA. This is a little different on their part because they are actually creating a new independent lot surrounding that building. The lot itself, I'm not sure is necessarily condominiumized or if it's just going to be a fee owner or how it's going to be owned. But yeah, so they are actually just creating a new lot that does not have frontage on it except city street and new property lines then that do need to that require variances. So just wanted to be clear on that.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Craig, and I certainly didn't mean that as a criticism of any of any one person. It just, well, I don't have anything more to add. I certainly would approve.
Mr. Waller.
I have no issues with it. It certainly is a unique case. I don't think we've seen anything like this in all the years that I've been on the board, but I'm inclined to approve it.
And Mr. Monahan.
Yeah, I agree with those who've spoken before. It seems to be a reasonable solution to the challenges that the hospital has, and so I'm fine with it.
I agree with all of my colleagues. This lot is certainly anomalous. The whole situation is anomalous, and it's probably an excellent example of what variances were invented to deal with. With that, I will invite anyone first dealing with case 0421, which has two variances. Two variances. I'll invite anyone who wishes to make a motion.
I would move that we grant both variances.
All right, and is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Oh, wait a minute, I did it wrong again. Mr. Monahan.
Yes.
Mr. Wallner.
Aye.
Mr. Winters.
Aye.
Ms. Spector-Morgan.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The variances are granted. That takes us to the second case, which is we have granted a variance for the island. Now we need to look at the ocean. Case 0621. There are in this case 3 variances, all of which essentially mirror the variances that we've already granted. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we, go ahead, Andrew. It's your turn.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, starting with Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Wallner?
Aye.
Mr. Winters?
Aye.
Ms. Spector-Morgan?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. And that carries the motion. The motion carries, and that variance is granted. And that concludes the business on our agenda this evening. Do I hear a motion to approve last month's minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed?
Thank
Everybody said aye, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else, Craig, that we need to address this evening?
No, I don't think I had anything else on the agenda, and we're looking forward to a reasonable agenda next month.
Very good. I'm glad to hear it. I do have a question for Mr. Wallner.
Yes.
Is that a SpaceX rocket I see behind you, or?
No, it's actually the Saturn V rocket that launched Apollo to the moon. And the reason my kids gave that to me for a Christmas present, it's a Lego.
Oh,
Oh,
excellent.
neat.
Cool.
It's 2,000 pieces. The manual is 196 pages long. And it took me about 20 hours to put it together. It's
Well,
really
it's beautiful.
They wanted to keep you occupied.
Yeah,
okay. Well, I'm working on it. I've done like
We
18
won't ask.
kept you out of the coffee shops anyway.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you all.
Good night, all.
Take care. Bye.